All right. Good evening. Hope everyone's having a great weekend or a great week. Finishing out the weekend here. Audio test is good. All right. I'm going to get into some tying of flies tonight. Heading down to Pulaski tomorrow morning. So we got to refill the fly box because it's running a little low. As always, constantly losing stuff to the bottom of the river with the split shots getting caught in things and all that. So you know the deal. But we're here to talk about fishing. We're here to talk about fly tying, whatever questions you may have. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll pause what I'm talking about to answer your question. So I'm just tying some egg patterns tonight in various colors, and like I said, I'm just trying to fill the fly box out a little bit more here for tomorrow morning. There is rain in the forecast for tomorrow in Pulaski, so that's good news. It may not be effective right away, but hopefully we do get some more fish. This weekend it's supposed to rain even more, although I don't think it's going to be the same amount of rain that we got last weekend, or the week before last weekend, when we got heavy amounts of rain with the lake effect rain and thunderstorms that we received here in New York. But anyway, so first thing we got here is looks like a size 4, yeah, size 4 hook and an egg hook. I'm just gonna add a little bit of lead-free 0.020 wire. These can't be added more than 1/8 of an ounce to the fly, but this is well under that limit. So I'm just adding it to help balance the fly with the split shots, and just help it sink down a little bit faster. So I'm not putting a lot on there, but I do like to put some on there. Then I'm just going to start with a jam knot to get the thread on the hook and over top of the wire. Normally I'll put a bead head on these flies, but tonight I'm not going to do any beads. I'm just going to go straight on the lead-free wire and then around the shank of the hook. We're just going to cover this up here and then trim our tag end. Where's my garbage bin? There it is. We're covering the wires of the hook in case the egg doesn't completely cover the entire shank here. So we don't want any bright, shiny silver sticking through as much as possible, just like our split shots. We got them all blacked out. You don't want shiny split shots floating through the water. But this doesn't have to be perfect either, so cover it as much as you can here, and then the rest will just kind of happen. Okay, first tonight we're going to do this Oregon cheese glow bug yarn with a cotton candy accent. All I'm doing here is wrapping it around the thread here, making a loop with it, and then putting it straight on top and cinching it down. And then I'm going to cut off all this excess stuff later, but for now I'm just securing it to the hook here with figure-8 wraps around the front and back of it, and then occasionally through the center of it. And then we're going to go horizontally around the entire material and not the shank of the hook. Really lock this in. You want to alternate between the figure 8 wraps and the horizontal wraps, just like that. These are really simple to tie. If you're not into fly tying, you can easily get into it. You just got to buy the startup materials, right? The vise, the bobbins and scissors and whatnot. But other than that, it's a relaxing hobby, and these are not hard to do. I'm just doing a whip finish now because the tying portion of this fly is done. I don't know how atrocious that sound is through the microphone, but I apologize if it is. So that's secured in there, cut off, and then we just trim our egg here, pulling all the material straight up, and then cutting across with the household scissors. You don't want to dull your nice fly tying scissors with this stuff, because it'll dull it out real quick. Then we just fluff it out. And it's a simple little egg pattern with a hot spot. And we're gonna fill the box with these tonight. So get a little closer to the camera there. It'll focus. Good looking fly. And it's in the box. All right, we're gonna do the same pattern, different color. And we're just gonna keep repeating and repeating. But like I said, the weather tomorrow's got rain in the forecast in the morning, but it's gonna be probably about 2 hours of rain. And that's just according to the weather website that I was looking at. It says it's not going to rain a lot, but it could be enough to at least drop the water temperatures down a little bit. It has been really cold here the last couple mornings. The last couple mornings that I've gone fishing, I've had to scrape the frost off my windshield each morning. So it's been in the 30s. I think Sunday night it dipped into the 20s, which was the coldest it's been so far this year. But yeah, it's been pretty good. The fishing's been hit or miss. There's some people that are having a lot of success in certain spots. They're hitting it perfectly at the right time of day and in the right location, and you'll see that. But I'd say for now, the fishing is kind of steady and more on the slower side of steady. Nothing compared to last weekend, if anyone was up here last weekend. Last weekend was crazy. So many fish pushed through. Just so many hookups, but not a lot of fish landed. I think I was 1 for 10 last weekend on Saturday, and then Sunday I got busy and couldn't make it. But yeah, it was crazy busy. There was so many people out here, but it was good. It was a fun time. I got to take my boss out fishing and got him his first salmon, so that was fun. He had a good time. Now he's hooked. He's gonna actually go with me tomorrow as well. So, Paul, if you're out there, let's get some fish, man. Let's get into them tomorrow. which is highly possible. You never know. So we're just doing another fly here. I like using the orange thread because it kind of creates its own hotspot underneath the pattern of the fly, even though I'm adding a hotspot in general. I don't know why, but orange is always a good color. All these flies work for steelhead season as well, so keep that in mind when you're tying. You're not just going to be able to use these for salmon. You can definitely use these for steelhead as well. All right, now we just got, we're going to do pink, fluorescent pink. And we'll do a red hotspot. I just got to find a little leftover red here in my disposal bin. I'm going to lay that on top of my pink yarn. Fold that over the thread. And this thread is UTC. I'm trying to get it on the camera. UTC 140 denier ultra thread in fluorescent orange. The most important part is you got to cinch these down really hard. If you don't get them down hard, they could slip around and then they kind of just destroy themselves, to be honest, which has happened to me plenty of times. So at my own peril, I've tied rushed versions of these, I would say, but there's no need to rush. Just make sure it's secured down. The last example I had of this falling apart was last weekend. I was tying a double Palomar knot to my leader in the hook, and I was cinching it down and pulling behind the eye of the hook with my right hand and holding the knot in my left hand. And the material slipped because it wasn't fully secured. The material slipped back towards the bend of the hook, and the hook slipped right into my thumb, which, I mean, it didn't penetrate to the barb, but it annoyed me enough to see to make me wonder what was going on, and here my material wasn't secured down tight enough. So just make sure that you get this stuff locked in place, and then I'm just going to do a 5 or 6 turn whip finish before trimming this material. At the end of the night, I will go through with head cement and apply the glue to the underside of the thread wraps here. I wait till the end to do that for all the flies that I tie, just because it's more efficient with my time. We got a lot of these to tie, because I got a lot of people coming up to go fishing with me, and they want to use these flies, so we're going to make sure that we got enough for everyone to use and to have fun with, right? That's what it's all about. Just having fun on the Salmon River. All right, we got that built out, and we're just going to fluff it a little bit here. Make sure there's no crazy strands of yarn sticking out. And it looks good. That'll work. Throw it in the box. All right, this next one we're going to do a red color, the same red that we used in the hotspot there. We'll do that color of the actual fly, and then we'll do a pink hotspot, so it'll be a completely opposite from the last fly that we did. We did pink and red last time. This time we'll do red and pink. so just make sure your hook's tight in the vise here. Grab a pinch of 0.020 lead-free wire. Just add a little weight to the fly within our legal limits. If you aren't familiar with the Salmon River New York regulations, then highly recommend to just read through the DEC handbook for 2022. It's got a section for Lake Ontario tributaries that applies to all the waters that flow into the Salmon River, or into Lake Ontario, including the Salmon River. My apologies. It's a good guide. You definitely got to know your limits and know the regulations, because the DEC do not play around. They will hand out tickets. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen checking licenses. So everyone coming out of state, make sure you got your license handy. You don't want to get a ticket. It's a pretty hefty fine. But still taking any questions in the chat. If anyone has any, just sign into your YouTube account and leave a question. And we'll answer it, whether it's about fishing, about fly tying, about the step that I'm on, you name it. So here's the red material we're going to use this time. It looks a little orange on the screen, but I assure you it's red. Just to be the lighting. I'm going to do a little pink hot spot, which we're just grabbing some leftover material from a previous fly. And we're going to roll it up, make it a little thin, and lay that on top of our red thread. Folding it around our thread now in a loop and pulling that down. You want to go wraps on each side of it, through the middle, and then around the whole thing. You want to do this a few times. I'm going to go through the middle once or twice, and then I focus on the horizontal wraps and the figure 8 wraps. But the most important part of this fly is securing it down. So I'm going to go to a different view here just to zoom in a little bit. There we go. I got some basic materials here on the screen on what you may need to tie salmon egg flies like this. This is all a pretty minimal amount of materials. If you want to get into fly tying, salmon eggs are one of the easiest things you can do, and I mean, you can catch some huge fish with it. So, and also steelhead, which it's a big fan favorite in the area here. The steelhead and brown trout on the Salmon River are pretty popular. Which I always love running into people on the river saying that they're just fishing for steelhead and browns in late September. Like, there's hardly any that have pushed in at that point. So, are you really fishing for those, or you're fishing for salmon? Drop my bobbin. Okay. This fly is done here as soon as we trim it. fluff it out. And then when you cast this in the water, it's gonna fluff out on its own. And the microfibers of the yarn here, they look really good underwater. You'll see. If you ever get a chance to use glow bug yarn, look at it after you casted it in the water a couple times. Looks phenomenal. All right. All right, three flies down. We're gonna try something a little different this time. We're gonna use some Estaz material. I haven't tied a lot of these, so bear with me, but we'll give it a shot here. All right, do the same thing on our size 4 hook. Add a little lead-free wire around the shank here. We're not using any bead heads tonight, just because I don't have any out that fit this size of hook right now. They're buried in my materials box because I haven't used them yet this season. Alrighty. Just a little bit of weight added there. Putting our UTC 140 denier ultra thread on the hook now, and covering our exposed wires, snipping off our tag end of the jam knot. And then proceeding to cover those wires. So you can sometimes speed this process up by giving your bobbin a counterclockwise spin. This flattens out the thread, and I'm just spinning it between my fingers here and I'm letting it run. It flattens out the thread, making it a little wider, and just allows you to cover more ground in a shorter amount of time. So that thread spin there pretty much has this whole thing covered already. If you spin it clockwise, then it's going to cord up the thread and make it tighter. So there is that. Okay, so now what color shall we do? We didn't do orange yet tonight, so I just got this little pack of material here. I'm just going to add it to the hook and make some wraps with it to bulk up this this stuff here. So I'm gonna make a little tiny fly with this, but it's gonna be flashy, it's gonna be bright, fluorescent, and it should be a good little pattern here. And I don't know if this is gonna be enough material, we shall see. But I'm just attaching this to the top of the hook and then giving it a good wrap. And then I'm going to proceed to behind the eye, not all the way up to it. So I'm just going to make a bunch of wraps on this. I'm going to try to concentrate on the center of it to bulk up the fly. And this is where it kind of helps to have the weight there, because it does add some bulkiness to it on its own. And see, I don't think we had enough material this time, so maybe the next one we'll add a little bit more and see what we can do. apologize if my finger's in the way here. I'm just trying to pinch the material down here without letting go and losing all of our progress here. All right, but that's good enough. Make sure you do wraps over top of and in front of the tag end of this. And then trim it off close. You can use your actual fly tying scissors for this stuff because it's pretty thin. But this is just a really tiny single egg imitation of this Estaz material. And it's in fluorescent orange. Then we'll just finish it to finish it off. If you're watching this video post live live stream, and you got any questions, just let me know in the comments. It'll take me up to 24 hours to respond, but I do respond to all positive comments. Try not to feed the hate out there, so if you're gonna leave a hate comment, then don't be surprised if I don't respond. But anyway, so this is a very, very small compared to the last couple ones I tied. We're gonna try that again with a little bit more material this time. We'll do the same color, and maybe we'll try to add a fluorescent pink hotspot in the middle to see if we can make that look good. This is all new ground to me. I've never tried this specific pattern that I'm about to try here. That just now came up with it in my head. So if it looks like crap, please forgive me. If it looks like crap, it's all right. It'll probably catch fish. So there is a competition this weekend at Sonny's. If you want to enter, it's $20, and then the biggest fish takes home the prize pool at the end of it. There's regulations for it, so don't be stuffing your walleyes with weights. That'll get you disqualified from the tournament and potentially arrested. Also, if you haven't heard, Sonny's is a great place to get your fish cleaned at. If you catch a female salmon and don't, if you're not the type of person that'll take the eggs to cure them and use them for your own skein or egg sacs, then they will keep the eggs and they'll fillet the fish for free. So that's something new they're doing this year. I think it's a pretty cool promotion because me personally, I don't put in the work to cure the salmon eggs because it's a lot of work and I just don't have the time to do it. So they'll take the eggs and then sell them later to fishermen, and that's great. So it's a win-win. So you get a free fish cleaning, and they get to make a profit off of the eggs that you worked hard for. So to me, it's a win-win. Now, if you're the type of person that keeps them, then yeah, sure. If you keep them, they're going to charge you the standard fee to clean that fish, which is really cheap too. It's only $3. I haven't seen any other fish cleaning station that's been cheaper in the Salmon River area in Pulaski. So if you do, let me know, because I'm curious. I'd be curious to see a cheaper spot than that. All right. So what I'm thinking is we add a little bit of micro yarn underneath this fly. Just a little bit. One, it'll help bulk up the body of it. And two, it can serve as a hotspot to the main fly here, or the main color of our egg sac. But I'm essentially going to do the same thing. I'm going to just make wraps around the center of it. And it's just going to thicken up this fly a little bit. And actually, come to think of it, it would make more sense if I tied this from front and work back. So then my final material is working from back to front, if that makes sense. So I'm going to undo this coil here. It didn't damage the material, so that's fine. I'm going to go to the front of the hook, and I'm going to tie this in. And I'm going to end up with my thread at the back of the body of this fly. Just like that. So we're trying something new here. A new pattern that I just thought up with Estaz. And I'm adding a little hotspot underneath with micro yarn. To bulk up the size of the fly here, because the last one we tied was kind of small, personally, if you ask me. So we got a little hotspot there underneath. Fly is a smidge bulkier, just a little. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll answer any questions about fishing, tying, how I got into fly fishing and fly tying, all the above. So now we're just going to get some Estaz material and secure it to the fly here. And make a little salmon egg. We're at the back of the hook now. I'm going to tie in this material. Careful not to nick the hook point, because you could break your thread. And we will proceed with open spiral wraps to the front. We do that to try to not cover up our hotspot underneath. Then we're just going to start making touching wraps. And actually, these are all flattened out, so I want to make sure that the material is actually expanding outwards, so I'm pruning it back with my fingers each wrap. Our last one that we tied like this just wasn't bulky enough to be egg-like. It wasn't round enough. So I'm trying to combat that by adding a little underbody. Make sure these wraps are tight, because if not, it's going to come unraveled and nobody wants that. So this one is a little bulkier. It's not quite what I expected to see in my head. That's okay. So we got all that on there now. We're not even going to trim anything off because it's literally to the end of it. And then we got a even brighter orange hotspot at the eye of the fly here. Do a quick whip finish and then repeat that. Still a decent looking fly. Real buggy looking, so those are my favorite kind of flies. When they're buggy looking like this. But I think it'll work. It'll catch fish. Okay. We'll do another one of those in a different color. Got 3 different colors with that, so we'll do 3 more patterns like this, and then we'll go back to the glow bug yarn eggs. This time we're gonna add a hotspot with this material, just a little more fluorescent, and it's a little thicker than the micro yarn was, so that may help us. Adding a little bit of wire here to bulk up the center of the fly and add some weight. Heading down to Pulaski tomorrow morning to do some salmon fishing. Test our luck out. Just making sure that the ends of the wire here are not protruding, as I can cut your thread as you're tying here, and that's no bueno. I'm sure we'll see a lot of people out on the river tomorrow. Link up with some of the regulars that we see on a weekly basis, or even daily basis when we're down there all the time. Don't know where we're gonna go yet. It probably depends on how busy it is. So if I can get a parking space, I'll probably go to the staircase in town, but if not, I'm probably gonna go all the way up to the upper fly zone in Almar, and then check out the hatchery, which just opened this past week. I think Monday or Tuesday. First time it's open in like 3 years because of COVID, so that's pretty sweet. All right, so we got enough thread base here. We're going to add this stuff on top of the hook at the front. And then we're going to work back to the back of the hook. And make wraps with this. Oh yeah. That certainly thickened up our fly compared to last time. But is it going to be too much? Also probably true. But we'll see. We're just playing around. Trying new things. I mean, this right here could serve as a pretty decent looking fly. So we don't have to do anything else here. But we will. We'll add a little red staz over the top of it. So we are at the back of our hook here, right on the curve, the hook bend. Secure our red staz down, and then wiggle our way through this material here. We're trying not to trap any fibers, but it's a high likelihood that we do. We're just gonna make some wraps around this whole thing. And that definitely compressed the material underneath a lot more than I wanted it to. Unfortunately, this did not turn out how I expected. It's okay. That is okay, chat. Yeah. Here's someone outside riding bike in the middle of the. It's pretty dark out there. There's someone riding bike, bicycle. Out there. Okay. And we covered our hook point, or our eye pretty heavy there. So we may have to actually take this back and undo. So I don't know if I'll be able to get my leader through there. This is a good lesson though. Don't crowd the eye of your hook, because right now this fly is wasted. Not wasted, but I gotta start over. And honestly, the way it turned out, I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna keep the orange part on underneath and get rid of all this red. Poke myself with the hook. So we're just back tracing everything we did there. Gonna go through this orange stuff. There we go. Gonna take the red, the staz right off the hook there. We're free. And since we're in the back of the hook already, I don't want to trap this stuff anymore. So I'm just gonna whip finish in the back. So you can do this, but you just gotta be a little more careful with the hook point so you don't tangle up. You're doing the same thing. You're just, instead of the eye of the hook, you're tying your knot at the back of the hook. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a little different than people are used to. That fly right there was nowhere near the direction I was gonna go, but I got it anyway. It's all good. I mean, this material works pretty well in water, so I'm happy with it. It's really light too. think we're going to go back to our glow bug yarn stuff. So we're going to do another glow bug yarn salmon egg pattern instead of doing the stats that we just did a couple times. So I'm going to go back to my original, the first color I tied tonight. It's the Oregon cheese glow bug yarn is the color, and the micro yarn in cotton candy. It's a real light pink. Contrasts the yellow pretty good, so I like it. We're gonna do a jam knot here to get on top of the hook here. And I'm not gonna do any wire this time. I'm just gonna do it without, but it's the same exact steps minus adding the wire and covering the wire. But I'm just gonna make a little bit of a thread base here. Probably about 1/4 inch wide, maybe 3/16. And I'm going to fold this material over top of our thread, make a loop with it, and then cinch it down to the top like this. We could get some good weather tomorrow and throughout the weekend, so I expect to see a lot of people. If you are coming up from out of state or even in state, bring your rain gear. It's going to be a rainy day tomorrow and throughout the weekend, so you don't want to get caught without any rain gear on the Salmon River. You'll have a miserable day. So it'll be about 50 degrees. Real feel will be in the 40s, and you'll be soaking wet, and no one likes that. There's no fun in that. So we're just making horizontal wraps around just the material, and then figure 8 wraps around just the shank of the hook. And we're kind of alternating those two just to make sure that everything's locked down tight. And then we're just going to finish with the whip finish and then trim our material when this fly's done. I like to do 2 whip finishes. Just to be sure. So if the first one breaks, then I can just snip it off on the creek or river. And then I can rely on the second knot. And this thing will last forever. Ready. Just gonna fluff this out a little bit. Make it a little more spherical. And yeah, it's buggy looking. It's good. I think I made it a little too long here, so if you do end up making them a little too long, you'll notice that it just doesn't get the full roundness that you're probably used to. There are other ways to tie this too, so feel free. I mean, probably 100 ways you can tie an egg pattern. A lot of creative ways out there. Like people put in, I've seen people put beads, like bead heads, in the middle where we're tying, and then use the bead head as like the yoke, and then you're tying glow bug material around it so that it's got like a hard yoke center. Kind of crazy looking, but pretty cool, and definitely a unique way of doing it for sure. Okay, just adding this on here. with a jam knot in the center of the shaft here. A little thread base, just so we're not going over exposed. You don't want to go over exposed hook shank because it's more susceptible to slipping. So that's the reasoning behind that. We'll try to use some of this Staz material to do the hot spot this time. So we're doing a hot pink one this time. Just securing it, going over all the material, over just the shank, and then horizontally around just the material. Those are the three types of wraps that we're kind of alternating between to really lock this in place. Key is just to have constant pressure and tightness around as you do this, and then the real key is just repetition here. It can be tedious tying these flies, but in the end they work for steelhead and salmon, so the return on investment is pretty good. You know, if you catch those fish, it's a pretty rewarding experience. I'm sure anyone can attest to that. Especially your first one. I can still very much remember my first salmon. So my buddy and I went fishing. We only live about 30 minutes away from Pulaski, and we went fishing before work in the morning, just on a weekday. Not a lot of people there. It was early season, probably mid-September, and we said, okay, we got to leave by 8:45 if we want to make it back to the office. We got showers in the office. We could shower there quickly, do a quick 5-minute shower or less, get changed and ready to work. That gave us the perfect amount of time to walk back to our cars, hop on the highway and head to work. And here it was like 8:43, I want to say. Once again, our deadline for leaving to make it on work on time was 8:45, and that was leaving from the river, not from the car. So it was 8:43, and I was like, well, you know what? I didn't hit this riffle yet. And here, what do you know? I go up to it, and I hook into my first salmon. And my buddy was actually already walking back to the trail to go up to the truck, and he heard me yelling for him. So he dropped all his stuff in the woods and started sprinting down to me to get the net and help me land my first salmon. And eventually we did it, but I had to call the boss on the way to work and say that I was going to be a few minutes late. So I felt bad, but I was also very excited that I got my first salmon. So, but it helped me in future trips in the morning before work. We had to set more time for ourselves to get back to the office. We couldn't cut it down to the last minute. We had to work in one of us catching a fish within the last 10 minutes of us leaving, so. But that was fine. That only happened once, so it wasn't a repeat thing. We fixed our errors. All right, we got a whole row now filled out on our fly box, which is great. But to be honest, I'll probably go through that entire row tomorrow on the bottom of the Salmon River in Pulaski. So we're gonna tie some more. We are, where are we at with the stream? We are an hour in on the stream, so it's pretty good. We got 3, 6. This is the ninth fly in an hour, and I mean I'm talking the whole time. I could definitely pump these out more if I was just focused on doing this, but my mind's kind of everywhere when I do these streams, so bear with me. Okay, we'll do red with pink. Red and pink is a good combo that I like to use for hotspots and main egg color. So just wrap the material with the hotspot in there. I like to make sure it's tight in my left hand because I don't want to just have loose material being attached to the hook. It just makes it more difficult. Made some figure 8 wraps around the shank, then through the original tie-in point there, then back around the shank. I'll do that once or maybe twice. This time I'll only do it once. And then I'll start doing my horizontal wraps. Looks a little loose in there. I gotta be careful with that. Careful I don't pull too hard. I'll pull it right out of the vise. I'll have to tighten it next time. Now I'm just alternating between horizontal wraps of just the material and figure 8 wraps of just the shank. We'll do one more horizontal and then one more figure 8. And then we'll whip finish this thing and be done with it. The 9th fly of the night. We've got enough material pre-set up for 3 more, but that doesn't mean we'll stop there. We'll see. We'll just see how we're feeling. Oh, there we go. Now we just trim it. You want to pull all the material straight up. It kind of helps make sure that it's all the same length when you trim it. Just like that. And that is a good length right there because it'll just make a little tiny egg here that we can fluff out. So red and pink. Just like that. Good to go. Good to hook. All right. We'll go back to the same 3 colors. And just now we're just pumping out quantity. We got the variety. Now we're just pumping out quantities. So if one pattern works well tomorrow morning, I can share it with my buddy going with me. And that's what we'll typically do. We'll fish 2 different colors. see if either has success, and then if one of us does have success, we will go for that color more often. Okay. All right. Oregon cheese colored, which is the yellow, and cotton candy, which is the light pink, for our next fly here. These are glow bug materials that are UV cured. Work really well. This color combination here is my favorite, and if you aren't aware, the pale yellow and the pink, just, I don't know, the way the color is in the water, and the just the way it looks when it gets wet, makes it all worth the while. Key here is just to secure this down. And with that, I would say it's secured. After we do our whip finish, of course. Alrighty. Another one bites the dust. It's going good, Clint. Nice to see you. How are you doing tonight? Just hanging out here. I just tied the 10th fly of the stream right now. So we are going to the Salmon River in Pulaski tomorrow morning, and I need to keep up with my daily contribution to the river, to the river bottom, that is. So I just got to refill some more flies here, so that I make sure that I have enough for me and my friends this weekend and this week. So hope you're having a good evening or a good night. I guess it's pretty late now. Oh yeah. It's definitely still on. I'm not sure. There's some speculation that the peak of the run was last weekend with the high amounts of rain and lake effect rain that we got, but I'm not so sure. I'm thinking we could have another good push of fish. We just haven't had the rain since then. Tomorrow it's supposed to rain in the area, so I'm hopeful that we get a little bit of a push, but probably Saturday will be a little better with a little more rain this weekend. Unfortunately, with Columbus Day being the busiest weekend of the salmon season, it's going to get kind of crazy in terms of people down here or down there. But are they still running in you're up in Ontario, right? They still running there? See, you've been losing a lot of tackle, just like me, but hopefully you're losing them on some fish and some bottom. we're tying this here with UTC 140 denier, fluorescent orange thread on a size 4 salmon egg hook. Got multiple colors tonight, and yeah, just different colors and sizes tonight. Just getting the quantity back up in our box. We're gonna lay a red hotspot on this pink glow bug yarn material. Fold it over the center of our line. Okay. How long a river is it up there? Because the Salmon River is only 17 miles, which to me it's not even a river. 17 miles isn't a long time, or isn't a long stretch at all. You can fish that pretty easily. I mean, I've fished every stretch of this river. So when you say you're chasing them up river, I'm just curious on how far you're actually having to go, or how far they can actually go up. Because here it doesn't seem like it's very far. But I've never fished salmon anywhere else. I've done steelhead in Erie, Pennsylvania, but not salmon anywhere but here in New York. Yeah. Well, hopefully steelhead season works out for you guys and gals up there. Alright, this thing is locked and loaded. Okay. Okay, so you didn't have to go too far. That's pretty good. Just past the fish ladder. So yeah, there's a fish ladder near my house here that usually gets a good run of fish, but this year the turbines broke, so the fish aren't going to make it up the fish ladder this year, so they're just kind of sitting at the dam. And that's up at the Black River. It's about 40 minutes north of the Salmon River. But yeah, the turbines are broke this year, and I don't think any fish are going to push up through. Yeah, Tim, we're going to the Salmon River tomorrow. I mean, for me, it's local, so I go pretty frequently. But I'm taking my boss tomorrow to try it out. He has off for Columbus Day weekend, so we're gonna take off and test our luck at the staircase. Hopefully, if not, we're gonna go to Altmar. But yeah, hopefully you catch some fish this weekend and have a good time with. Are you coming up as a group? Or will you be alone for this weekend? It's going to be a busy weekend. It's always the busiest weekend of the year up here. So do be careful. You're gonna run into a lot of people if you haven't been up here before, but I'm sure you probably have. Reports are definitely iffy. I personally don't like going off of some of the more popular reports, and I'll leave names out of it because I don't want to cast judgment for anyone. Oh, you come up with your father? That's awesome. Yeah, that's always good to go fishing with family. My father-in-law is coming up tomorrow as well from Pennsylvania, so I'm gonna take him out in the afternoon. My boss in the morning. But yeah, the reports. Like I said, I don't really trust all the reports. Some of them, uh, I tend to trust a little more than others. But like I said, I'll leave names out of it and let you cast your own judgment on the research that you do. But is this your first time fishing the Salmon River? Oh no, you never mind. Sorry, you said you come up with your dad every year. That's good. Yeah, yeah, Clint. It's just for flow control, but they can't control the flow on the fish ladder side. Um, with it being broken. So um, yeah. Okay. I'll look up that river in Port Hope. I think I actually have seen it. Okay. Well, I mean, Tim, age is just a number. Um, I can tell you that if you've been fishing here for 8 years, then you have fished here longer than I have. But I don't know how often. If you only come up once a year for the weekend, then I've probably got a little more time on the water just because I lived so close the last 2 years. So I mean, I'll go down almost every other day, uh, whether it's before work or right now. I've had off work the last 2 weeks, so I've been going pretty frequently. I take off for fishing each year. Okay, 2 times a year. That's good. Do you come up for steelhead season as well, or the bass spawn? Because the bass spawn here is pretty high, or pretty popular, I'd say. All right, the last uh, material that I have pre-cut here is our red with a little bit of pink. We'll use just a pinch of pink. Okay, steelhead season is awesome up here. It's super cold. Make sure you have insulated waders, but uh, I love going up to Altmar for steelhead. That's my favorite spot is up at the schoolhouse up in the upper fly zone. But it's it's a good time. There's still tons of people here in steelhead season. It's not the same craziness that you see in salmon, but I mean there's times where I've seen 50 to 100 people in the river in the middle of February trying to get those trophy steelhead in the river. So it does still get crowded. So just be careful out there. The flow on the Salmon River this week is not nearly as high as last weekend. So safety is always a concern, but not as much of a concern this week for a lot of people. Last week you couldn't even get in the water; you had to fish the bank. So oh yeah, definitely. The steelhead are so smart. Um, just the way that they can get you off the hook is incredible. I can't tell you how many times I've lost steelhead where they'll just they'll be running downstream and you'll be chasing them a little bit, and then next thing you know they turn straight towards you and they come towards you, get slack in the line, and then they'll just pop the hook and bye bye steelhead. But it's just super smart fish. Go ahead, Tim. What's your fly fishing rig question? So, as a background, I started out fishing. I'm from Pennsylvania, and my the majority of my fishing has been fly fishing small trout streams. When I was in college, I took courses for fly fishing, which is kind of crazy to some people, but Penn State University, they actually do fly fishing courses, and it's awesome, awesome material. Okay, so you can go with either. A lot of people will use the Rio pre-tapered mono. Like I said, that's a pretty popular choice. But for me, what I do is I use P-line. So P-line is a copolymer, and which is a mono-fluoro blend. Thus the co in it. It's two different plastics, mono and fluoro. The strength on it's really high. So I use a 17-pound copolymer. P-line is the brand, and I have other videos on it if you want to check it out on the channel. And then I taper that down to 12-pound fluoro, and then I taper that down to either 10-pound or 8-pound fluoro for salmon season, and then 6-pound fluoro for steelhead season. So it's all dependent. If it's like early in the season, I'll usually go to 12-pound tests because the fish are so fresh and fight. Or if the water's really high, like it was last weekend, I'll go to 12-pound tests because it's such a brown chocolatey color that it doesn't really matter as much. The line isn't as visible. But yeah, you can taper down. You can buy a pre-tapered rig, or you can do it yourself. So I do it myself with blood knots all the way down. Blood knot is a really strong knot. It kind of replaces the barrel swivel. I personally just like to use line to line and not line to swivel, swivel to line, but that'll also work for you. Yeah, there's plenty of videos out there, including my own, on how to tie blood knots, or you can just do your barrel swivel. So, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of the regulations. You just got to watch that you don't have more than a 4-foot leader for between your split shots and your hook on your fly line. So be careful with that. But does that answer your question? I kind of rambled there for a little bit, but I just want to make sure that your question is answered and that you're good to go on that. Yeah, the steelhead are crazy. That's what makes them so fun, though. And yeah, like I said, blood knots are my go-to. They're pretty easy to tie once you have done it a few times. Repetition is key, as in anything. But I do blood knot for leader to other lines, and then double palmar knot for the hook. So started out with mono and a fly reel. Okay, yeah, that's another popular thing up here. Is just to use a fly reel, kind of like a spin rod. With mono, filling it up, you can get a lot of line on it, and it just allows those fresh fish to run. The biggest problem you have is you can't let them run when it's so crowded. People just get annoyed with you and get frustrated with you if you let a fish run too far. But yeah, I'm glad I could answer your question. If you're just starting out with it, I'd probably recommend just doing a pre-tapered leader and then attaching like a little bit of fluoro to the end of it and adding your split shot above that. But yeah, that's awesome that you're getting into the sport like that. It's always good. The fly fishing community is a pretty close-knit group, so I'm sure if you see people out there on the river, they'll give you a hand and probably answer any questions. It's one of the first things I do when I get to a new spot. I'll find someone that seems to be having some success and then kind of just observe them. But then also I'll go up and talk to them, and just be friendly, and if they're jerks, and I'll move on, and if not, I'll usually gain some knowledge from them. So it's a win-win. All right, I'm gonna do one more fly here, and then I think I'm gonna call it a night. But I'm gonna do another red one because I have just a little bit of material sticking out here, and I don't want to waste any. So we're gonna use the last of this blob of yarn in the same color that we just tied. But I do wish you good luck, and hopefully you and your dad get some fish on, and fish on the bank, not just on the line. Because for me this year, it's been a lot of fish on the line and not a lot of fish on the bank. But it's just one of those years. We just lost a lot of that material, but that's all right. There's still a little bit of a hot spot in there. So that's fine. These flies don't have to be perfect. They get fished until they break off on one or break off on the bottom. So yep, no problem. No problem. Yeah, oh man. There's been a few center pin rods for sale on the Facebook groups here, and I've never used one, but every time I contact the guy to buy it, or whoever's selling it to buy it, it's already sold. They sell like hotcakes up here. So unfortunately, I still have not got a center pin rod, but I've always wanted one. I want to get like a 13-footer center pin and start learning to do some float fishing. I've always been super intrigued by that, but just never have had the opportunity to do it. So maybe next year will be the year that I get to center pin fish. We shall see. All right. Well, I hope you gents have a great night. And good luck to you on the water. If you see me out there, say hey. And we can hang out a little bit. All right. There's a little bit of a tail on this guy, so I'm going to trim that. No, it's all good. Thanks for stopping by for sure. I think a lot of my early viewers are coming from the Facebook side of things, and they don't have YouTube accounts, so they can't chat. But it's always a good time getting to actually talk to people and not just talk to no one, as oftentimes you will see in the YouTube streaming community for small streamers. So I do thank you for coming in and just talking. I had a good time with it. I hope you had a good time as well. And maybe I'll see you guys next time. So we did a pretty good job. How many did we get? We got 15 flies tied tonight on the stream, maybe 14. So yeah, everyone have a good night, and I'll catch you next time. I'm out of here.